Hey tribe, how are you? So today I want to talk about anger, and recent shifts that I've had have had a lot to do with my ability to be angry and express my anger and feel the rage, really like rah! Now, I want to address, now there's a lesson in A Course in Miracles. Some of you guys know I'm a student, teacher of A Course in Miracles or whatever, and there's a lesson that's it's a huge piece, and it just says anger is never justified. And I really want to kind of go into this with you guys and explain the shades around this, especially because sometimes, depending on our program, we can really start to adopt this thing that like anger is super bad. We can't show our anger. If we're angry, it's like a weakness, or we're a bad person, or we're a horrible human being if we get angry, if we get upset. And yet, most of the time, we can't even help it. Before we even know it, we're just like, rah! We're in our anger, right? And then we feel really guilty and bad because anger is never justified. And if we're angry, it must mean that we're like a horrible human. And that's not the case at all. And obviously, I talk about anger in the Fearless Life Guide. I talk about how it's so important for us to be able to feel our anger and own our anger as our own and like work through it, process it. So often is the case that if we're triggered and we're starting to feel angry and we want to blame that person for how we feel and fuck that person for making me feel this way and screw them and da-da-da, and we never think it's us. We never think it's like our own feelings. Then we just perpetuate those cycles. We stay locked in our control patterns. Versus acknowledging that there's anger, acknowledging like, oh my God, there's so much anger in me, like I'm feeling all this rage, and then allowing yourself to sit with, what is that? Why am I feeling that? That's the process. And ultimately, the more we do that in our lives, the better we get at avoiding those explosive outbursts, right? Now, and I'm talking from really compassion and humility here, guys. Like I'm still working through, I'm still having explosive sort of reactions. At the same time, I'm having really, really cool insights and downloads about the difference between our own emotional wounding, so us clearing out like the overlay or the distorted realities that are perpetuated from unconscious wounding. Once we start that journey, eventually we do work through enough of that unconscious programming where we're consciously creating. Now then, what I'm experiencing through this transition, you kind of think of it as like us growing in our power, us becoming better manifestors, us becoming more free, us becoming more fearless, or becoming more in love, more abundant, like all of these good juicy vibes. Once we've worked through enough of our density, and then what happens is that sometimes our old reality, it's like breaking free, and then like the people trying to like grab at your ankles or like hook back into you and say, no, you can't be free. That's not possible. And so often what happens when we look back at our own world, we actually reflect back the kind of unconscious program in other. So we assist as we break free from our old paradigm, we actually shine light for our old paradigm as we make the turn to the new, right? And that's the power of owning our anger. Once we own enough of our anger, which usually when we're triggered to the point of storming, that the anger is really just a mask for your deeper wounds, your deeper layers. But if we recognize that we have not worked through our anger, if we recognize that we're still triggered by other people's anger, then that is a symbol, a sign that we have a deeper wound that's still creating certain relationships or certain dynamics in our reality. It's potentially still keeping us disempowered. It's potentially, and so we have to be really honest with ourselves. Am I in my power? Am I really doing what I love in the world? Am I making money doing what I love in the world? Am I standing on my own 2 feet as an empowered creator? Or are there people in my life who I'm still waiting on, or am I still serving? Or are there people in my life who I'm still thinking like, I should fix them, or I need to help them, right? So anger is huge, right? Because there's this sort of fear of it, and at the same time, what I recognize is that we do have to work through it if there's still deep unworthiness, if there's still areas where we're not really feeling good about ourselves, or areas where we still might be putting ourselves down and that we're not fully owning our power. And if we're afraid of our own anger, we'll just project it out. And this is something where I'm having to own the responsibility. If I recognize that I'm being used to act out someone's unconscious projection, and it brings, it sort of makes me turn into this person that I'm not, I'm responsible to walk away. I have to be responsible to clear that energy out and to permission myself to keep going in the direction that I'm on, to keep flowing in the intuitive dance that I'm in from within myself, because it is glorious, because it feels amazing. And all I can say is, yeah, it's never what we think. And often we give ourselves some really deep and profound tests, some really big tests to keep us moving in the direction that we're here to move in, right? We're not here to move in other people's directions. We might think that for some time because we're still trying to fulfill some need. We're trying to fulfill whatever it is. You know, usually there's some unconscious need that those codependent relationships fulfill, you know, like some kind of unexpressed love or some kind of pain. And yet I always have to come back to the text where it's just like, no, drop in, really feel deep to the truth of who you are. And I can choose. And that's the biggest difference. Becoming a powerful creator means I can choose. I get to choose for myself, as do you. So, and often this is where we see a disparity or a closing of gaps, is that my choice is for my own awakening, for my own journey, for my own expansion, for my own joyful essence. And I am the one yoking that joyful essence. So the more I do that, the more I must be the only one who chooses where I invest my energy, because the more I yoke that, the more valuable my energy becomes to me. So the more valuable my energy becomes to me, the more diligent I am with who and where and with what I'm interacting with, so that I don't end up in those experiences which are quite frightening. In those experiences where you almost feel like you're out of control, you're acting out this sort of monster energy, and then you break it off and go, whoa, what the fuck was that? So that is when we're acting out someone's projection. Because when we sit with it, there's nothing deeper coming out of us. So if I'm having an anger, and then I break the exchange with others, so I break the exchange, and then I sit with and I own my anger, and then I sit with it and nothing comes up, and I just go, well, what was that? Well, that was someone else's projection. So when we're entangled in that way, we will often act out an unconscious projection, which is their unconscious, unexperienced or denied anger. So if they're in denial of something, they'll project it outward, and then it's their choice. Once the cut happens, once the separation or the distance happens, it's every being to choose their own reality. So every being is always in their conscious choice. And that's something really powerful for me right now, is realizing that if I continue to choose my power, it forces other people to step into their own or not. But at the same time, it's breaking free from these chains of codependency, which tells us we're responsible for each other's lives. We can't be. We can only co-create in harmony. We can only co-create in disharmony, codependency, which is people still not truly owning their sovereign power. People still wanting to deflect some of the responsibility onto the external world, which then loops them back into self-perpetuated patterns that usually get worse and worse, rather than honoring and seeing the pattern and breaking free from it. Now recognize that the breaking free truly is breaking free from people, places, and things. It has to extend right to the end of the physical reality. We talk about physical transformation, but if I haven't truly transformed my body, are you going to believe me? No. So I have to keep the energy going right to the end. If my intuition asks me to walk away from somebody, I have to walk away. Because if I don't, I'm just repeating a same lesson that I've already been down, I've already been through, and I don't want to do that. I consider us fearless life tribers to be pattern breakers. So be very aware of other people's patterns, of your own patterns, and knowing what patterns you're in with people. And if some people are ending patterns with you, then you might want to be aware of what kind of patterns you're perpetuating in your other relationships, especially if there's a relationship that you may or may not want to end. So we have to get really real about where we're coming from, and be very aware of putting ourselves onto people. I talk about this in the book, but we're not here to fix each other. The moment we think we have to fix someone, usually it comes from, again, our own wound and our own putting it on someone else and then thinking we're going to come and save them from their wounding. But that is an arrogant distortion of truth, Because if we're trying to fix someone, we're projecting woundedness out into the world. I've made a leap now where I literally see every single being in their power, in their fullness, in their greatness. But if they don't choose to be in their greatness, if they don't choose to be in their sovereign power, if they don't choose to be the light that they wish to see, then I can just love them and like be an open vessel of compassion for them, but I don't have to choose to be around them all the time, because then that would just be perpetuating the same old dynamic that I've been in my whole life. But now I can see it clearly for what it is, I can own it as my own, and I can walk away from it. And then what that person chooses to do is their own. However, if I deny my anger, I can't see any of it. If I just go into someone's energy unconsciously and work with the poor victim, not realizing that that victim is a reflection of my own victimhood, then again, we stay locked and just check in. And this is the thing. It's about like meditation, y'all, yoga, conscious movement. Check in with your body, check in with your true self, check in, like, you know, what do I really want? Where do I want to be? What kind of people do I want to hang out with? Be really honest with yourself, you know, and it doesn't matter how long, how short, how whatever, you know, we're all infinite. We're all eternally connected. We can stay hanging out in misery if we want to. That's a choice too. We can stay hanging out in, oh, everyone needs healing all the time and I'm a big savior. We can stay hanging out wherever we want. I'm just at a point in my life where I'm feeling free and I'm feeling like joyful and I'm feeling happier than ever. And I know I've been through a lot of shit and I know I've created a bunch of bullshit and I know that it's not about perfection and it's not about having all the answers, because I don't ever want you guys to think that I have answers for you. It's only about living an authentic truth of my own expression in the moment. And sometimes in the moment I have anger, and sometimes in the moment I have sadness, and sometimes in the moment I feel great joy, ecstasy, and bliss. And the more joy, ecstasy, and bliss, and ease, and peace, and love, and abundant flow, and the more of that stuff I feel, the more I'm going to choose to feel that way, because I've been in the other. I've been in abuse cycles. I've been in patterns of suffering. I've been in patterns of pain, depression, distortion, fucked upness, over and over again. I've been in many, you know, a lot of my relationships have been really, really intense. You know, a lot of healing over these years, a lot of deep, deep, profound healing. You know, I've fully healed my family line. Like, I'm fully in a divine relationship with my mother and my father and my sister, and I feel this love in abundance. But I had to face my anger. I had to own my anger, and I had to own it so that I could forgive the people in my life that I was still blaming for my own circumstances. And so owning it and continuously owning it is my practice. That's how I work. That's how I do. You know, and so for me, that healing journey is perpetual, but I'm the only one who can dictate the truth of my own experience, no one else. So I give you guys permission. Don't let anybody tell you who you are. Don't let anybody tell you, you know, be you, be free, you know, but own what you're going through as well as your own. And again, when we're going out trying to like fix people energetically, be very, very mindful, because, you know, even in the healing communities, there's like a lot of debate around like, projections and people getting locked into sick patterns to keep, you know, you have to keep healing. You have to keep healing because you're always sick. But then I remember a big breakthrough for me was like, yeah, but when do I just get to be free? And now this is me, like I just get to be free and I don't have to have all this deep wounding. I just get to be free and enjoy my life in the world. And there's still people who are like, no, you shouldn't. So of course there's going to be a part of me saying, no. And yet in that power of saying no, how other people perceive that, that's their experience. That's their perception. That's their choice. You know, so you guys, I'm going to give you just massive permission. Just be who you are. Stand in your truth and be mindful of trying to fix people, and don't be afraid of your anger. Feel your anger. Fucking feel your anger. It's not, the whole point of this, anger is not justified. What's not justified is, again, blaming somebody else for your anger. You know, working it out from within yourself. but you have to express it. If you don't express it somehow, as in like ripping up a pillow or having good mentors or good coaches or proper healers who could hold space for your anger, then, you know, express it, and then let it go. And then see what comes out after you've expressed it. Because, you know, again, if we think we're holding space but we're being triggered, so if there's an emotional reaction from what we think we're holding space, then it's our trigger, not necessarily the other. But this is all really subtle. I could only encourage a deeper meditation, a deeper relaxation practice, and a deeper self-honesty when it comes to the patterns that we're in, rather than distracting ourselves by focusing on other people's lives that we don't necessarily even know a lot about. We think we do because we get fixated on that, again, to distract ourselves from our own healing. But yeah, you know, we all do it. It's not right or wrong or good or bad, because we're all just on the path, you know, like we're all, and this is the thing about like the truth of it and how I feel. I'm like, whenever it's time to break free or distance or separate ourselves, literally all relationships are eternal. All of us are infinitely connected. There is no right or wrong. I can own my creations and then I can let them go. And then other people's creations, that's their own creations. Whatever stew they're in is totally their own stew. And here's the thing, words lie, vibration doesn't. I have to I talk about it in the book, and yet I'm still practicing it, right? Big time. Is that stop listening to my head and feel. Feel into what's going on and stop listening to my head. Because the truth is, when I stop listening to my head and I stop making excuses for people, my energy will tell me. My energy will tell me if someone's a drain, if someone's lying to me, if somebody's trying to pull me down, if somebody's my energy tells me. So now I just have to listen to my energy and work through anger as and when it comes up so I can keep rising. If I bottle it or deny it or pretend like it's not there, I can't shift it. So I move through the anger, and now having been someone, again, for years and years and years and years and years, deep storming, deep processing, deep reflection, working stuff out, right up until, you know, earlier this year, like intense heartbreak healing, and then intense shape shifting of my reality, and then intuition saying, time to go this way, right? And it's like, off I go, be free. And I just think, yeah, at some point you can be healed. At some point you can just start enjoying your life. And that's the truth. And yet right to the last minute, you're going to have to keep choosing. Because you might still create like little tests that are like, you can't be free. You must be wounded. You must be wounded like everybody else. You can't be free and happy. And there is that. And again, it's unconscious. It's unconscious because it usually comes out of our old self, our default setting of, yeah, but I'm supposed to be this, or I'm supposed to be that, or yeah, I'm supposed to act like this, otherwise I'll be a bad girl, I'll be a mean girl. And I'm just so like, wow, it's not that way at all. And I'm so relieved. I'm so relieved to come to this other side and say it is possible to live on this planet in harmony and peace and in good health and in joyful, expansive abundance. But the depth and diligence of the inner work that has to continue is the juice of life, is the vital essence of our own expansion. It's just more subtle than what we're trained to do. And so for most of us, it's just more unraveling this so you can feel. Just keep feeling. And I can only know myself. So I can only be truth and align myself. And here's the thing. From my experience, I didn't know I was in an overlay or unconscious program until I wasn't. So I have so much love and compassion for people who are in those programs, you know. They're still acting out the wounds. They're still in those subtle codependent dynamics, and that's okay. Because I'm fully aware in my own, like, I didn't know I was in an overlay until I'm suddenly on the other side of it and being like, oh my fucking God. I just created the craziest intense situation just to help me get into my power. Just so that I could continue to empower myself to walk away from certain types of energy and step into other types of energy. But I had to keep permissioning myself. I kept saying, I'm going to be happy and free. I want to be happy and free. Even when people who didn't believe in me, you know, close friends or like that's great, but actually your online business is a bit shit or whatever, you know, like actual people saying that. And then, well, not shit, just not very valuable. And then I'm like, well, no, actually, I believe it is. I really believe it is. And the more I believe in myself, the easier it is to believe in myself, and then attract people who believe in me, and people who believe in themselves, and people who want to believe in themselves, and people who want to feel happy and good and free and want to own their shit and transform it, but also don't want to take on other people's shit no more. So now I'm feeling these clear exchanges in relationships with people who feel abundant, who are generous, who are giving. My life becomes easier. I'm in more trusting relationships. And all of this came through me owning my anger as my own and letting my anger move through me so that I could feel the pain and feel the sadness and then feel the wounds underneath until I come to compassion. That's the practice, guys. I always come back to love and always come back to compassion. And yet the strength within me knows that I can say no as well to certain people, because that is the power of consciousness. That is the power of being a chooser. Being a conscious choice maker, being a deliberate choice maker in your own awareness. You can choose. You want to hang out with this person or this person? That thing or that thing? This one or that one? What one feels better? Just feels better. Stop making excuses in your mind. What connection feels better? Go with that one. Drop the others. I know it can be fucking confusing because in essence, when you think about cutting out the other, it makes you so frightened because you're about to hit up against that wound. That underlying wound of unworthiness, that underlying wound of fear, of betrayal, where you denied your own power and gave it to other people. And those people are still holding that power over you, making you feel that you're somehow responsible for them when you're not. But that feeling, that hook, is what denies the wound in you. And so really, really, really look honestly at ourselves. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. And at the same time, guys, I want to show you the kind of truth of manifestation in such a way that our reality always vibrates where we are. That's just the truth. Everything around us is a reflection of who we are. And right now, I gotta say, after this fucking crazy journey, especially ending this Uranus and Aries cycle, and then it's gonna dip back for a bit, but it's like, everything is a better reflection for me right now. Everything. You know, my new clients are just incredible, amazing, powerful people, wonderful people, generous people, people who want to do the work, people who want to feel amazing, people who want to be responsible. You know, like working with Team Love has just been such a joy and such a fascinating process and such an honest exchange. And all of this, again, from owning my anger and working through my people-pleasing tendencies, working through being the nice girl all the time, and actually just fucking being committed to my own heart. My own, just mine. I'm only responsible for mine. I don't get involved in other people's shit. You know, that's their business. That's their world. That's their creation. You know, and if I'm meddling, again, there's a wild distraction happening. Unless every area of our lives sorted, I wouldn't get involved, you know? Until I can really shine these levels of creation to you, which I'll continue to do. And my body transformation, because it's such a lifelong pattern, my own physical body transformation was really what made me go, I'm gonna leap. I'm just gonna step up and shine this message I have because I've seen my body transform, so I know it works. Next is all the money coming in, you know, and that's starting to happen. So I'm really excited to be able to reflect back to you guys that feeling of like when you really start to believe in yourself and love yourself and you can shift things like overnight. You know, the reality that I'm living now is like what I always believed. I just didn't know how it was going to happen. Now it's actually fucking here and you're like, oh my God. And the thing is, like, I know in my heart, like where I'm rested, where I'm vibing. And I can honestly say, guys, I just have had a lot of anger to work through. And the most powerful shifts have happened when I've sat in the heat and rage of my own burning wounds and then let them burn it out, let them burn out, basically. And then there's the sadness, and then there's the pain, and then there's the shame, and then there's the guilt, and then there's the self-loathing, and then there's all of these vast, various energetic waves that come out once the anger shifts. And then what happens is that there's no more real control patterns. Everything you're working with is a conscious choice, and then any last little bit of unconscious programming just sort of spins out around you, and you can just kind of cut it out one at a time, move through, because you're clearing there's always going to be a purge. I always have, if I have an anger reaction, there's always going to be some form of emotional release after, some kind of crying and releasing from the pain of whatever that vibrational upheaval is letting go of, right? When we can hold ourselves, when we can hold space for ourselves. It's just that holding space for ourselves is a diligent practice, and one that requires a lot of, again, our own healing and our own transformation to be able to sit with it and practice. It's just practice like anything else, right? But if we're still denying our own anger, if we're still denying the fact that we have lots of anger, that we're still angry at the world or angry at people or angry at ourselves, then, you know, it's just be aware that often when we're in denial of our own anger, we will project it onto people. So certain key figures will just project the situation of intense anger and then pretend like it's all there, it's all them, but actually it's a reflection of our own unconscious, that which we can't, you know, look at in ourselves. So it's important for us to do some deep reflection and some deep, especially as Uranus moves into Taurus now, because this energy is it's just gonna keep blindsiding us in such a way. And I can honestly say, you guys, that I think we're in a really good position with this kind of energy because we're already been training ourselves to be flexible. We're already on the path of allowing ourselves to be in the flow, to be more in the present moment, to be more adaptable so that we can adapt and shift and change with the energies, and obviously set those intentions to be of the highest good, of the highest service for all, so that we can anchor in these new frequency energies and start to build. This is why we want to kind of at some point step off. This is why we want to at some point kind of step off the kind of healing loop, is because we do want to start building the new. We want to actually start creating the new. We want to start, like, Katie had an insight about getting upset about, like, the crazy, the zero waste, it becomes so intense and it can get so overwhelming because there's so much plastic. Then making that realization of, instead of staying there on how overwhelming, how intense, how nobody's changing, how there's plastic everywhere. And so she made the insight of say instead of sitting there, I see it, I'm aware of it, and now I shift my focus to the solution. So now our practice is to focus on more and more people getting involved, more and more people raising awareness, more and more people making change, more and more people cleaning up the oceans, more and more people, right? That we now just focus on. People are healed, people are well, people are ready to fucking change. People are ready to move in this direction. So now you can see, right? You can see this power. You can see how transforming anger then gives us fucking passion. It gives us energy. I used to be really tired. For many, many years when I started my yoga journey, I was exhausted all the time exhausted. I'm amazed at how much energy I have. I'm amazed at how good I feel on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes I miss my naps or because I just feel really energized because I'm juiced up. I'm jacked up. I'm excited about life. I'm excited about sharing. I'm excited about offering more and more and more because I know it's valuable. I know that, you know, assisting people through their plastic waste journey or assisting people through their veganism journey is going to be useful because it's been useful for us as Team Love. It's been an expansive journey for Team Love to move through these shades together as a unit and know that we're pioneering something radically new and radically wonderful as well. So, freedom is yours. Liberation is yours. And yet it's usually on the other side of facing a lot of our own anger, facing and transforming our own anger so that we start to touch on those deeper wounds that we carry. I love you guys loads. I hope you have an awesome day, and I hope that this was useful to you. Don't be afraid of your anger. Let it out. Let it out. It's good for us to let it out. At the same time, break free. Break free if it doesn't serve you. I give you permission. Honestly, we don't need it. None of us need it. That's like this. I always say to you guys, if you don't like it, if you're not vibing it or resonating with me or the tribe, you're allowed to leave. I release you with love. Because that's how I feel about my life. I feel released and I feel free. And, you know, I'm a chooser, so I can choose what energies I associate with, and so can you. Love you guys. Have an awesome day. Peace out.